we should start by talking about the beauty of education. Support systems like MTR, programs that support, recruit, and retain educators, but also just changing the way that we view education. It's not just this tiring job that doesn't get paid a lot.
I'm not trying to state the obvious here. We always talk about how teaching changes lives, but who teaches matters just as much. How kids see themselves depends on who stands at the front of the classroom. Here's something to sit with. Black teachers make up about 6% of U.S. teachers, but black men account for just 1.3% of all teachers. That gap carries weight. It shapes influence, identity, and possibility. Today's guest has thought hard about this. He's living this. Ahmoni Jones is a leader at Soulsville Charter School. He leads with discipline, belief, and demands possibility. So I want to ask, why should more young men of color become teachers? What changes when a child sees someone who looks like them leading the room? And what path has to shift for this to be a path people choose? Amani, welcome to the show. Ahmoni Jones, man, I am excited to have you on. And, watching you right now, I can tell you're sitting in a classroom. There's so much I want to talk about. But first of all, what are you teaching? What grade is that?
I'm teaching 7th grade math.
Yeah. You have always been, and I've known you, several years, you've always been a unicorn. You're a basketball player, a great basketball player. Went to my alma mater. I thought I was good, and then you tried to just do what you can to pass me on the all-time scoring list and all that. But that's a whole nother conversation. I won't get into all that. But and then you're a math savant, a true unicorn. Let's start with your experience. Talk about your schooling growing up, because at some point you decided this is what I want to do. But did you always like school?
Yeah, I'll say for the most part, I did always enjoy school. I grew up in a predominantly black school district, so elementary, middle school, high school was predominantly black. So I always felt like the culture was something that I was familiar with. It always made me feel like I was right at home. So I've enjoyed school. Now, I will say once I got to college, I started to enjoy it a little bit less. But for the most part, yes, I absolutely did enjoy school.
Now, a lot of people who grow up in all black districts, we know a lot of the schools in those districts can run hot and cold in terms of academic achievement, teachers being able to meet some of the challenges with kids, life after school hours, so to speak. In your experience, I know there were folks who didn't like school. What made you still like it and also be one of the cool kids, which I know you were?
I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed it, really it was just like the connections that I made with my educators. So most of my teachers I had were teachers of color because I went to a predominantly black school district. So it just felt like that relationship that I built with my teachers felt strong. They had a strong foundation. The discipline was something that I was familiar with in my own home. So really just having those teachers where I feel like I could connect with and really get to know, not only just on an educational level, but pushing me to be the best version of myself. It really just pushed towards how I loved and viewed school, was just the relationships that I've built, not only with my peers, but with my teachers.
Now, how many black male teachers did you have as you matriculated through elementary and middle school?
Yeah, 0. I had 0.
Wow. And at what point in time did you say to yourself, I want to do this? Because not many young people these days are flocking to the profession the way they used to, but you've always been pretty consistent about this is something you want to do.
Yeah, I really shout out to my parents for that. My parents are both behavior specialists at an alternative school. So really, I just seen the grind that they put in and day out, and the injustice that a lot of students got because of, them being an educator and seeing the things that they had to bring home. So I just knew that that was just a light that I wanted to put myself in, and really just try to fight that injustice. And short story, I actually loved playing teacher school when I was little. So it was one of them things where I was like, all right, let me see how this actually works in real life. And I enjoy it. I found a lot of joy in what I've been doing and learning. So this really just what kept me in it.
I talked about you being a math savant. One of the areas where, not just young black kids, but it really cuts across class and socioeconomic lines, that a lot of, folks from working class communities, black, white, brown, what have you, have a hard time with math. Was this something you always just took to?
Yeah, I don't ever really remember struggling in math. Math, for just whatever reason, just always seemed to click for me. And I know that's not true for a lot of other people, especially my friends. They hated math.
Let me jump in for a quick moment. For a lot of students, the traditional model just isn't the right fit. That's why more than 3 million families have chosen K-12 powered schools offering flexible, tuition-free learning options with certified teachers and a personalized approach that meets learners where they are. If that sounds worth exploring, you can head to k12.com/podcast. All right, back to the conversation.
And it was always something that was just took a lot more work. I don't really know why math was just my soft spot, my love for it. But it's just always been something that I've just been able to pick up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, let's go to when you went to college and when we met, and you said you wanted to be a teacher. You were determined. You wanted to learn all you could and play a role in helping kids and be a symbol, if you will, in schools where those symbols are far and few in between. But while in college, you were playing basketball. You were at a rigorous academic schedule, but you still found time to interact with kids. Talk a little bit about some of the things you did, as you were preparing yourself for teaching post-college, but you actually were doing some really cool stuff with kids while in college.
Yeah. So my basketball team at Wabash, we have this thing called Books, Basketball, and Beyond. And we moved to other elementary schools within the city of Crawfordsville, and we just read books to them. Literacy is something that is struggling in this country, so we really try to push towards, we're going to practice reading. What does that look like? What does reading books look like? Just finding joy in learning how to read. So that's something that we did about at least once a month. But I also found an internship with Memphis Teacher Residency while at Wabash. And I've moved to Memphis for my internship. And I got to work with kids in math. So that was great. And that was my first time that I was actually in a classroom setting. And that trajectory for me getting that internship really skyrocketed why I wanted to be an educator, and really just took off from there.
I was wondering how you would respond to that internship, because there's a lot of young people who have ideas about what they want to do growing up and even in college. And when they get into the quote unquote real world, it's like, wow, I don't know if I want to do that. But my sense is that as you've gotten into the real world of education or day-to-day teaching in the classroom, that it's fueled the fire and not put it out.
Right. Yeah. I definitely say going in and putting myself in a situation where I am the leader in front of the classroom, I actually get to see some of the disparities that some of our students have. And really just seeing those disparities, especially in math, I really just wanted to, it ignited the fire in me to really just go in there and help out as best as I could. I really want to close that gap between students' math and reading scores. But really it's just seeing that some students are really struggling and it's not their fault. That really just motivates me to just keep being there for them, because if no one's going to be in the class, no one wants to be in the classroom. So how are we going to find people to be in the classroom and want to help the students? So they need me, I need them. So I'm going to continue to show up for them in the classroom.
A lot of math teachers have told me that, and by the way, one of the challenges with students in math is most of the teachers that introduce them to math don't know math themselves. I mean, very few have went to school in math, and you have a lot of folks who struggle with math in large part because the teachers who introduce them to math aren't really math experts or math teachers themselves. But a lot of the math teachers who are really good tell me that one of the things they do when they enter a classroom with so many kids with these deficits in math is they try to make it fun, and they try to engage kids where they are and not get so caught up in the formulas or the equations. They want to make sure they're bringing folks along at their own pace. Is that something that you've been able to do?
Man, you hit it on the nose. I'm so glad you said that. Yes. One thing, my motto in class is I tell people, math is going to be hard, but one thing math won't be in my classroom is boring. So we're going to find ways to make math engaging. We're going to find ways to make it fun. It is still going to be hard while we do it. But that's really my motto, because really, if math is fun, that skyrockets the engagement. If they're engaged in class, the learning increases. If they're learning in class, the more they'll look forward to coming into my class every day. So I really just try to change the way that people perceive math. Math is not just this hard, boring subject. It is going to be hard, but it's not always boring.
Yeah. And how have the students responded to you? And can you feel there's an opening there to build the relationship, get them excited and engaged, and particularly some of the young black kids you see, because they don't see many like you?
Yeah, it definitely, at first, I think their reaction is, this dude is weird and goofy. Like, why does he have so much energy? I think it's just something that they're not used to. But once they get used to my energy, my goofiness, how I try to make the problems more relatable, they start to be like, okay, like math, this is enjoyable, like this is fun. So I have a little pushback at first, but after a while, after they get used to seeing the way that I teach, they've really starting to fall in love with it and enjoy not only learning math, but enjoy working with the people that they will get to work with every day.
So you're at a school in Memphis. It's a charter school, correct?
Yeah.
And how are you getting along as a new teacher, interacting with some of your peers who've been doing it for a while? I mean, there are mentorship opportunities, where you get a chance to learn from folks who've been doing it for a while. But also, you've got to try to carve out your way. So talk about that balance in terms of learning from folks who've been at it for a while, but still maintaining your own desire to do your own unique, creative stuff.
Yeah, it's been really difficult to find the balance between the two, because I have so many creative ideas that I want to try, but I also know that there are things that I have to make sure that I'm following, guidelines that I have to make sure I'm following. So it's been hard to find that balance, but my coworkers, man, they're awesome. They've come in, they understand what it's like being a first year teacher, and they've come in after a period. Hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing? Even admin coming in, checking in. It's like, all right, it's been the first 7 weeks of school. How we feeling? So everyone's just been completely supportive. They understand the position that I'm in, and they've shown great empathy towards me.
So, Amani, let me ask you this. Through your experience, being in your schooling until college really was among many of your African American peers, and you're at a school where there are a number of African American students and teachers. What can we do to excite more young African Americans to want to enter into the profession, and particularly black men like you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we should start by talking about the beauty of education. I think a lot of times all you hear about if someone wants to become a teacher, oh, they don't make enough, or oh, no one wants to deal with these kids all day, or oh, I don't have the patience. Well, let's just talk about the beautiful things of it every day. Every day I get the opportunity to come in and teach students or kids something new. I get the opportunity to come in every day and tell the student, you can do this. You got this, you are capable, and just really writing the stories that they have for themselves in their life. That's really just one way that I think about it, is just changing the narration that we have towards teaching, but also just, support systems. Like shout out to MTR, like they recruit, they go to other colleges to make sure that people know about MTR. There are programs that help retain the student or the teachers when they do become educators. So really just having programs that support, recruit, and retain educators, but also just changing the way that we view education. It's not just this tiring job that doesn't get paid a lot.
It reminds me of something my wife and I have talked about, that, you can wake up in the morning and start your day full of gratitude or grievance. And when it comes to education, you're absolutely right. Because of the challenges that we've seen in our schools and with many of our young kids, people often, when they talk about education, lead with conversations around those challenges as opposed to those opportunities. Many great teachers that I know, and some have been on this show, they talk about how moving it is, how emotional it is to see their progress in being able to get a child from point A to point B, particularly those children when they come in that first day of class. They may be discontented or may be frustrated or want to give up on schooling. And that idea of having the attitude around what's possible as opposed to what's wrong, I think you're onto something.
Yeah. I definitely think it's important to just change our mindset. Mindset is everything, like you said. You can wake up and be like, oh, today's going to be a hard day, a long day. And it will be. But if you wake up saying, someone's going to learn something new today, that's all the mindset that you need going into a day as a teacher.
Yep. Well, Amani, it's always good to see you. Thank you for all you do. And look, when we meet back at our college, I can't go one-on-one, but I think we should play a game of horse. We've never done that.
We
definitely
should. I'm ready.
Not backing down one bit.
We can do it.
I love it. All right. Ahmoni Jones, thank you so much for joining us on What I Want to Know.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to What I Want to Know. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, so you can explore other episodes and dive into our discussions on the future of education. And write a review of the show. I also encourage you to join the conversation and let me know what you want to know using hashtag WIWTK on social media. That's hashtag WIWTK. For more information on Stride and online education, visit stridelearning.com. I'm your host, Kevin P. Chavous. Thank you for joining What I Want to Know.